The screams from my nightmare jolted me awake. My heart thumped so hard I could feel it in my ears. I sat up in bed, my huge t-shirt sticking to my sweaty skin. In my dream, I was walking down the aisle at my sister's wedding. Everyone was pointing and laughing at me. Their faces twisted into mean smiles as they whispered about how fat I was. The worst part, it wasn't just a nightmare. My sister's wedding was coming soon, and my family really did want me to fix myself before the big day. And my name is Emma, and I've always been the big girl. Ever since I was little, I've been bigger than other kids. In kindergarten, when other kids were still small and cute, I was already the tallest and widest in class. My teacher once called me her special-sized student with a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. Even at 5 years old, I knew what she really meant, and as I grew up, my size became more and more obvious. By high school, there was no hiding it. I wasn't just chubby anymore, I was truly fat. My body felt like a giant sign that followed me everywhere, screaming different. Look at her. She doesn't fit in. Being the fat kid was really hard. Kids called me names like Elephant Emma or Wide Load. Their words cut deep into my heart, leaving scars that never fully healed. They would push me in the hallway or save the tiny desks for me as a joke. Sometimes they'd moo when I walked into class. Every laugh, every finger pointed at me made me feel smaller inside, even as my body grew bigger. The bullying changed how I saw myself. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. So I found a safe place in books and stories. I would hide in the library during lunch, losing myself in adventures where people were judged by their bravery or smarts, not by how much space they took up. I became known as the smart, quiet girl, the nerd. I didn't love that label either, but it hurt less than the others that my little sister Lily was nothing like me. She was only 11 months younger, but she might as well have been from another planet. Lily was naturally slim, pretty, and everyone loved her right away. She could walk into any room and suddenly become the center of attention. People smiled when Lily talked. They leaned in to hear her stories. She collected friends as easily as I collected books. Despite how different we were, I loved my sister fiercely. When she started at my high school, I was so happy. I thought we'd walk the halls together, that I could protect her and show her the ropes. I imagined us eating lunch together, sharing secrets, being best friends. But that's not what happened at all. As Lily settled into high school, she started to see me through other people's eyes. The cool kids quickly welcomed her into their group, and suddenly my little sister seemed embarrassed by me. When we passed in the hallway, she would look down or pretend to be busy with her phone. It hurt so much to be invisible to the person I loved most. "Emma," she hissed one day when I waved to her in the cafeteria. "Don't. My friends are watching." Slowly, I backed away, my lunch tray shaking in my hands. My cheeks burned hot with shame. Things got worse. Soon Lily wasn't just ignoring me. She joined in with the bullies. She and her new friends would wait for me outside classes. They'd whisper loud enough for me to hear. "God, how can you two be sisters? You look nothing alike. Does she eat all the food in your house? Must be hard sharing a bathroom with someone who takes up the whole space." Each word was like a slap. My own sister, the person who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, now made fun of me just to fit in. I felt so alone, like I was drowning in a sea of mean people with no one to throw me a life jacket. One terrible day, Lily and her friends burst into my bedroom without knocking. I was trying on clothes, standing in just my underwear in front of my mirror. "Oh, gross," Lily shrieked, making her friends giggle. "Put some clothes on. Nobody wants to see all that." They laughed and pointed at my stomach, my thighs, my arms, every part of me that jiggled or stretched. I tried to cover myself with my hands, but there was too much of me to hide. Tears burned in my eyes as I grabbed my blanket to cover up. "Get out," I screamed, my voice cracking. "Get out." They left, still laughing, while I collapsed on my bed sobbing that I tried to tell my parents about how Lily was treating me. I thought they would help, would tell her to stop being so cruel. "Mom, Dad," I said one night at dinner, "Lily and her friends have been really mean to me at school. They call me names and make fun of my weight." Dad didn't even look up from his plate. "That's just how sisters are, Emma. Don't be so sensitive. Mom patted my hand like I was a silly child. Honey, Lily's just playing around. She loves you. Besides, maybe if you lost a little weight, kids wouldn't tease you so much. Their words were a punch to my gut. Not only did they not care about my pain, they thought I deserved it because of how I looked. The only time my parents seemed truly proud of me was when report cards came out. I always got straight A's. Studying and learning came easy to me. When I brought home perfect grades, Mom and Dad would smile and show everyone. Look at Emma's report card. They'd brag to relatives or neighbors. She's so smart. She got all A's again. For those brief moments, I felt seen and valued. But then they'd turn around and use my grades against Lily. Why can't you study more like your sister? They'd ask her. Emma never gets anything less than an A. This made Lily hate me even more. She wasn't interested in school or grades. She wanted to be popular and have fun, and she was good at those things. But our parents kept comparing us, which only made the gap between us wider. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning to find my homework missing. Hours of careful work just gone. I'd panic, rushing around my room searching everywhere while the clock ticked closer to school time. And there Lily would be, leaning against my doorframe with a smirk on her face. Looking for something? She'd ask, not offering to help. Years later, when we were both in college, Lily got drunk at a party and confessed that she used to steal my homework and hide it just to watch me freak out. She thought it was hilarious to see me so upset. When she told me this, laughing like it was a cute childhood prank, I felt that old pain all over again. After college, I moved to a different city. I found a good job that I loved, made new friends who valued me for my brain and my kind heart, not my size. I didn't see my family much, just quick visits a couple times a year, phone calls on holidays. The distance helped heal some of my wounds. Last summer, after not seeing my family for almost a year, I planned a visit. I was excited to show them my life updates, tell them about my promotion, maybe even mend some of the broken parts of our relationship. The family lunch started okay. Everyone seemed happy to see me. We ate and caught up on basic life stuff. Then Lily dropped her bombshell. "I'm getting married," she announced, flashing a sparkly ring on her finger. For a moment, I was genuinely happy for her. Despite everything, she was still my sister. "That's wonderful, Lily. The ring is beautiful," I said, leaning in to look closer. Before I could ask about her fiancé or how he proposed, Lily turned the conversation back to me. "So what about you, Emma?" she asked with a smirk. "What's new in your life? Still single?" "Still." She looked me up and down. "Struggling with your weight?" The room went silent. I could feel everyone staring at me, waiting for my reaction. I tried to laugh it off, but the damage was done. My parents quickly joined in. "You know, Emma," Mom said, "you're not getting any younger. Don't you want to find someone before it's too late? And maybe if you lost some weight, it would be easier to find a man," Dad added. "Yeah," Lily said. "My wedding is next year. You've got plenty of time to slim down and maybe even find a date. I don't want people feeling sorry for my big, lonely sister while I'm walking down the aisle." Their words cut through me like knives. Here I was, successful in my career, happy with my friends, proud of the life I'd built. And to them, I was nothing but a fat, sad failure because I wasn't married. "I like my life," I said quietly. "I'm happy with my job and my friends. I don't need to be married to be complete." Mom just shook her head. "What's the point of all that money if you come home to an empty house?" I sat there feeling small despite my size. I'd traveled all this way hoping for connection, for family warmth. Instead, I got judgment and cruelty. Lily smiled sweetly, but her eyes were cold. "I expect you to at least try to lose weight for my wedding. It'll look weird in the photos if you're twice the size of everyone else. You've got almost a year. Even you could drop some pounds in that time." I didn't argue. I just nodded and changed the subject, holding back tears until I was alone later that night. When I flew back home after that horrible visit, something inside me snapped. Their words echoed in my head day and night. Not because I believed them, but because I was tired of letting them hurt me. I joined a gym the very next day. Not for Lily, not for my parents, but for me. I found a personal trainer named Jessie, who had once been overweight herself. She understood my journey in a way no one else ever had. "This isn't about getting skinny," she told me during our first session. "This is about feeling strong, about taking care of the only body you'll ever have." I followed her plan carefully. I changed how I ate, focusing on foods that made me feel good rather than just restricting calories. I worked out 5 days a week, pushing myself harder than I thought possible. There were days I wanted to quit, days the old voices in my head told me I would always be the fat sister. The family disappointment on those days. Jessie would look me in the eye and say, "Those voices aren't telling the truth. You are stronger than they know." The weight started to come off, slowly at first, then faster. As the pounds dropped, something unexpected happened. It wasn't just my body changing, my whole sense of self shifted too. I stood taller. I spoke louder. I started to take up space in the world not despite my body, but because of it that I bought new clothes that actually fit, rather than hiding in baggy shirts and stretchy pants. I got a bold new haircut, dyeing my brown hair a bright, honey blonde. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself, not just because I was thinner, but because I looked happy. 2 weeks before Lily's wedding, my parents called to invite me to a final planning lunch back home. I hesitated. The thought of facing them again made my stomach hurt. What if they still found ways to tear me down? What if all my hard work meant nothing to them? But a small, fierce part of me wanted them to see the new Emma. Not just my body, but my confidence. I wanted them to see what I'd accomplished, not for their approval, but to prove to myself that I didn't need it anymore. "Emma?" Mom finally managed to squeak out. "Is that really you?" I smiled and hugged them both, feeling their stiff shock. "It's me," I said simply. They couldn't stop staring, couldn't stop complimenting how pretty I looked now, how different I was. When Lily arrived, she didn't notice me at first. She breezed past, talking about wedding details. Then she turned, did a double take, and froze. "Emma?" she asked, her voice high and strange. She reached out and poked my stomach with her finger, as if testing if I was real. "How did you? I mean, you look so different." I finished for her. "Yeah, I've been working out." My parents laughed nervously. "We barely recognized her," Dad said. "Me neither," Lily said, still staring. "When I told you to lose weight, I never expected you'd end up looking this good." Her voice had an edge to it. "Did you get surgery or something? There's no way you did this naturally." I felt a flash of anger. All those months of sweat and determination reduced to an accusation of cheating. "No surgery," I said calmly. "Just hard work and learning to love myself. You should try it sometime." Lily's face flushed red. Before she could respond, Mom jumped in. "You know, Emma, you should really go back to your natural hair color. The blonde is a bit much. You look so different from yourself." Dad nodded. "Lily's always been our blonde daughter. You're the brunette one." I stared at them in disbelief. First, they criticized me for being fat. Now, they were criticizing me for changing. It suddenly hit me. They didn't want me to succeed. My confidence threatened them somehow. "What's your problem?" I asked, my voice rising. "Why can't I be blonde too? Does Lily own that hair color?" Mom scoffed. "You're clearly trying to overshadow Lily's wedding by changing your whole look." "Yeah," Lily added. "You're already going to stand out because of your weight loss. Do you need to take my hair color too?" That was the moment I truly saw them, really saw them, for the first time. My family had never been on my side. They had always needed me to be the before picture so Lily could be the after. They needed me to be fat and plain and quiet so she could shine brighter. "I'm done," I said, the words burning my throat. "I'm done letting you three make me feel small. I've always been amazing, exactly as I am, but none of you could ever see it. And now that I've changed, you still can't be happy for me." They stared at me in shocked silence. "Since you all love giving me unsolicited advice about my body," I continued, turning to my mother. "Mom, the skin around your eyes is sagging and your teeth are crooked. It's disgusting." I turned to my father. "Dad, you're bald." How dare you criticize anyone's hair when you can barely grow any? Finally, I faced Lily. And you, don't ever talk down to me again. Between us, I've always been the better-looking sister. And now that I've lost weight, your chubby arms make you look fatter than I ever was. Their faces crumpled with shock and hurt. I picked up my glass, drank the last of my water, and walked out. For the first time in my life, I had spoken the painful truth. Instead of swallowing it, I flew straight back home that night. My phone blew up with angry messages from my family calling me disrespectful and demanding I return for Lily's wedding. I didn't go to Lily's wedding. Instead, I booked myself into a luxury resort for the weekend. I got spa treatments, watched my favorite shows, explored a nearby city, and took myself out for fancy meals. With every moment of self-care, I felt lighter, and not because of the weight I'd lost. I've blocked my family's numbers for now. Maybe someday we'll talk again. Maybe we won't. What matters is that I finally understand a truth it took me too long to learn. My worth isn't measured by my weight, my relationship status, or my family's approval. My worth was always there, waiting for me to recognize it. There's a subplot to this story that I haven't told you yet. During my weight loss journey, I met someone, not a romantic someone, at least not at first. His name was Oliver, and he worked at the coffee shop next to my gym. Every morning after my workout, I'd stop in for a protein smoothie. Same as yesterday, he'd ask with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "AT first." I was shy around him. Handsome guys like Oliver didn't usually talk to girls like me. But as the weeks passed and my confidence grew, we started chatting more. One day, he asked if I was training for something specific. "My sister's wedding," I said without thinking. Then I laughed and added, "Actually, I started because of that, but now I'm doing it for myself." Oliver wiped down the counter, his eyes curious but kind. "Family stuff, huh? Sounds complicated." "You have no idea," I sighed. "My sister basically told me I needed to lose weight, so I wouldn't embarrass her in wedding photos." His eyebrows shot up. "Wow, that's harsh." I shrugged, trying to seem like it didn't hurt. "I'm used to it. My family has always made me feel like the odd one out because of my size." Oliver stopped wiping and looked at me directly. His eyes were a warm brown that reminded me of hot chocolate on cold days. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. When I nodded, he continued, "I see you come in here after your workouts almost every day. You're always pushing yourself, always determined. That kind of strength doesn't come from trying to please other people. That comes from something deep inside you." His words made my cheeks warm. Nobody had ever seen me that way before, as strong rather than just big. "Thanks," I mumbled, not knowing what else to say. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked with that crinkly smile. "Same time," I promised. Our morning chats became the highlight of my days. Sometimes they were quick, just a hello and a smile as he handed me my smoothie. Other times, when the shop wasn't busy, we'd talk for 15 or 20 minutes about books. He loved sci-fi, movies, we both hated horror films, and our dreams. He wanted to open his own cafe someday. One morning, about 3 months into my training, Oliver wasn't behind the counter. A grumpy older man took my order without looking at me. I felt a strange emptiness as I sipped my smoothie alone. The next day, Oliver was back, but something was different. He seemed quieter, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Everything okay?" I asked as he handed me my drink. He hesitated, then sighed. "Not really. My mom's sick, cancer. I was at the hospital with her yesterday." "I'm so sorry," I said, reaching out to touch his hand before I could stop myself. "Is there anything I can do?" He looked surprised by my question, then gave me a small, sad smile. "Actually, yeah. Would you maybe want to grab dinner sometime? I could use a friend right now." Friend. The word both warmed and stung. Of course, that's how he saw me. But still, it was something. "I'd like that." I said. We exchanged phone numbers, and that weekend we met at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I spent way too long getting ready, trying on outfit after outfit. In the end, I chose a simple blue dress that matched my eyes and showed off my increasingly defined shoulders and waist. Dinner wasn't what I expected. Instead of just small talk, Oliver opened up about his mom's illness, his worry about her treatment costs, his guilt about working instead of being with her more. "I'm sorry to dump all this on you," he said finally, pushing pasta around his plate. "I don't usually talk about personal stuff with people I barely know." "I don't feel like we barely know each other," I said truthfully. "And anyway, sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who isn't tangled up in the situation." He looked at me gratefully. "That's exactly it. You're easy to talk to, Emma. You really listen." After dinner, we walked through a nearby park lit by strings of tiny lights. The night was cool but not cold, perfect for strolling and talking. "So, what's the real story with your sister's wedding?" Oliver asked as we sat on a bench by a small fountain. "You mentioned your family gives you a hard time." I hesitated, then decided to tell him everything. The years of bullying from Lily, my parents' constant criticism, the lunch where they told me to lose weight for the wedding. As I talked, old pain bubbled up, making my voice shake. Oliver listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Your family sounds terrible," he finally said. "No offense." I laughed, surprised by his bluntness. "None taken. Seriously, Emma, the way they treat you isn't normal or okay. You deserve better." His words landed in a tender place inside me. I'd spent so many years thinking their treatment was somehow my fault, that if I was just thinner, prettier, more like Lily, they would love me properly. The worst part, I confessed, is that even though I started working out because of what they said, part of me still wants to show up at that wedding looking amazing just to see their faces. "I get that," Oliver nodded. "But you know what would be even better? If you realized you don't need their approval at all." We talked until the park lights turned off, signaling closing time. As we walked to my car, Oliver suddenly stopped. "I have a crazy idea," he said, his eyes bright in the darkness. "Don't go to the wedding." "What?" "Seriously. Skip it. Do something amazing for yourself instead. Something that makes you happy." "But they're my family," I protested weakly. "Family doesn't treat you the way they treat you," he said simply. "Family lifts you up, supports you. They don't tear you down to make someone else shine brighter." I thought about his words all the way home. Could I really skip Lily's wedding? The idea felt both terrifying and thrilling. Over the next few months, Oliver and I grew closer. We went hiking on weekends, discovering that my new level of fitness let me enjoy the outdoors in ways I never had before. We watched bad movies and threw popcorn at the screen. I went with him to some of his mom's doctor appointments when she needed extra support. Slowly, I realized we had become more than friends. The way his face lit up when he saw me, the way his hand would find mine during movies, the way he looked at me like I was something precious, it all added up to something I'd never experienced before. One night, after cooking dinner together at my apartment, we were washing dishes side by side when he turned to me with soapy hands. "Emma," he said, his voice serious, "I need to tell you something." My heart dropped. Was this the part where he told me he'd met someone else? Where he explained that he only saw me as a friend after all? "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He faltered, then took a deep breath. "I think I'm falling in love with you." The dish I was drying slipped from my hands, clattering loudly in the sink. "You what?" "I love you," he repeated, more confidently this time. "And not just because of how you look now, though you're beautiful. I love your kindness, your strength, the way you listen. I love how you never gave up on yourself even when your family did." Tears filled my eyes. My whole life, I'd believed I was unlovable because of my size, because I wasn't like Lily. But here was this wonderful man, seeing all of me and loving what he saw. "I love you too," I whispered. Our first kiss tasted like dish soap and the chocolate dessert we'd shared earlier. It was perfect. As Lily's wedding drew closer, my anxiety grew. Oliver's suggestion to skip it entirely kept coming back to me. The lunch with my family, where I'd finally stood up for myself, had been liberating but also draining. Did I really want to put myself through days of their criticism and backhanded compliments? When the invitation to the final planning lunch came, I decided to go, partly to show them my transformation, partly to make a final decision about the wedding itself. I didn't tell them about Oliver. Some precious things deserve protection from toxic people. After that disastrous lunch, where I finally told them exactly what I thought of them, I flew home feeling both guilty and relieved. Oliver picked me up from the airport, taking one look at my face and understanding immediately that things hadn't gone well. "Let me guess," he said as we drove home. "They couldn't handle seeing you happy and confident." I nodded, still processing everything that had happened. "They actually got mad that I dyed my hair blonde, like Lily owns the color or something." Oliver shook his head. "So what now? Are you going to the wedding?" I looked out the window at the city lights blurring past. My phone was still buzzing with angry messages from my family. The thought of spending days with them, of watching Lily be celebrated while they continued to criticize me, made me feel sick. "No," I said finally. "I'm not going." The relief I felt at saying those words out loud told me it was the right decision. "What will you do instead?" Oliver asked, a smile spread across my face as an idea formed. "Something just for me. Something wonderful." That's how I ended up at the luxury resort instead of my sister's wedding. But I wasn't alone. Oliver came with me. We spent 3 blissful days swimming in the infinity pool, getting couples massages, hiking in the nearby mountains, and eating incredible food. On what would have been Lily's wedding day, Oliver surprised me with a small box at breakfast. "This isn't what you think," he said quickly as my eyes widened. "It's way too soon for that. But I wanted to get you something to mark today." Inside the box was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant shaped like a phoenix. The phoenix rises from ashes, transforms, becomes something new but still itself, Oliver explained as he fastened it around my neck. "It reminded me of you." I touched the pendant gently, tears in my eyes. "It's perfect." That night, as we watched the sunset from our balcony, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer it. "Hello? Emma?" It was Lily's voice, sounding small and uncertain. "It's me."